and Cypher goes up, puts the nose in front, comes away, a famous victory, and Cypher beats Leap to Fame. It's just outside the overall world record.
Well, those pictures just feel like yesterday. The first edition of the Tab Eureka taking place 12 months ago, and we're ready and rearing to go for the second edition to be staged this Saturday night at Menangle. The world's richest harness race, $2.1 million on the line. 10 sets, I'm sure, are very excited, nervous connections, readying themselves for the opportunity of a lifetime. It's wonderful to have your company, and for the next hour or so, we're going to take a really serious deep dive into this Tab Eureka. Hopefully find you the winner in what is an incredibly open race. It's great to be joined by Michael Gearin to help me with that. Welcome, Michael. What a race.
It's a vastly different race, as we say hi to everybody watching around Australia, from the race we had last year, where we had those big bang proven Grand Circuit horses. Leap to Fame, Catch a Wave, the Miracle Mile when it was there. This year, not those horses, more intrigue, I believe, Brittany, a better punters race coming up on Saturday night.
Well, you talk to different people, everybody has a very different opinion, and that to me suggests it's going to be an intriguing race. Also alongside me is Harness Racing Australia CEO Andrew Kelly. Welcome back, Andrew. You're buttering up for a second round as well. Was it everything you'd hoped for in year one?
Oh, and more. So, yeah, we've certainly set the bar very high, and there's been a lot of planning that's gone into this year's edition. And, you know, even the horses that have been selected, there's been a lot of ups and downs along the way. So it's great to have the field in place. We can talk about it today and we really look forward to Saturday night. It
has been a roller coaster, hasn't it? Let's look at that field and how it is now. We know that there's been many runners in and out of contention, and that was up until earlier this week on Monday. But this is how they'll line up behind the gate. We know that the one Fighter Command is an early scratching. Bay of Biscay now the lone 3-year-old in the race. Two mares, Major Delight and I Keep Smiling. I Keep Smiling to be driven by Greg Sugars. And as we work our way outside of the field, we've got some serious contenders. The 4-year-olds are very, very open. Now to the market for this year's Tab Eureka, and he's been the long-time favourite, Never Ending, and I think a few assumed that he may drift a little post barrier 14, but the support has been there very solidly for him. Short Thing Captain a little easier to $4.20. Don Hugo at $5.50, $6 for Major Delight, and Whisper a Secret, Michael, has been the big market mover. Remembering he wasn't even in the race on Monday morning. Now he's there, and according to Tab, he's a serious contender.
And Brittany, a real diverse market. We have 4 horses from 4 different states in the first 4 positions in the market. That would be a total rarity, even during an Inter-Dominion or a Miracle Mile. It's so rare to have that spread. How everybody reacts to that for Saturday night is going to be fascinating. The one thing I would say is, I think Menangle over the last decade has proven to us Menangle form is the most important form heading to Menangle. So we're going to talk a lot about that. And the distance change, 2,300 metres. For a lot of these horses, Brittany, they haven't done a lot of that. I think it's a big advantage if you have rock and rolled in those derbies, or more importantly, in free-for-all racing. I think those are the key pointers. Let's see if we can help people find a winner around them.
Well, let's get underway with the first of our runners in focus. It is horse number 2, Bay of Biscay. As mentioned, now only the 3-year-old, the only 3-year-old contesting this year's Tab Eureka.
Bay of Biscay, a place getter in the New South Wales and Queensland derbies, is trained by Emma Stewart and will run for the Kevin and Kay Seymour slot. This lightly raced 3-year-old has performed admirably in his short career.
Pegs, 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 and Bay of Biscay will go one better in the Nutraneck Wide Classic. He's doing it on the bridle. Bay of Biscay, all too easy. Bay of Biscay wins at about 8 metres.
So Bay of Biscay now the lone 3-year-old in this year's tab Eureka. There's much discussion around the 3-year-olds taking on the 4-year-olds, and after how he performs this Saturday night, I'm sure that we're going to have a clearer picture once again. But in the Kevin and Kay Seymour slot, Andrew, so tell us a little bit about their decision-making process, because it was easy for them last year. They had Leap to Fame. This time around it was a little more interesting because they really did have a decision to make, and maybe they went with the unexpected.
Yeah, Kevin actually threw out sort of a lure to everyone to say, if you'd like a spot or you'd like my spot, come at me with your resumes. And from that perspective, I suppose he had a few to choose from. And at the end of the day, he went with his Alabar mates and Alan Galloway and Brett Coffey around that. Of course, has already pocketed $30,000 for the first colt over the line, as long as he gets around safely. So from that perspective, they're already would be reasonably happy. What I see also is that he's going to be running in a strange set of colours. They're the Kevin and Kay Seymour colours, but they're also Grant Dixon's colours. Grant driving in the race. They're a different set of colours, so let's not get too mixed up with that.
And of course, Grant Dixon driving in the Hayden colours, which we will discuss in a little bit more depth shortly. Michael, what's your opinion on this? I think you're in two camps. The 3-year-olds can match it with the 4-year-olds, or it's a task too far. What's your opinion?
The short history of these horses trying to do it has shown us that pretty much they can't. And some very good horses have tried to do this. Krug, Leap to Fame last year in the Rising Sun. 3-year-olds taking on 4-year-olds. This horse's stablemate, the Lost Storm, who had comparable form last year, tried to do it and was found out. I think eventually a very good 3-year-old will win a race like this of the Rising Sun, but this horse hasn't proven he's even the best 3-year-old in Australia. He's been beaten in both derbies he's contested, and both times Brittany after he led. He is advantaged by the fact we've gone from 2,400 metres last year, which wasn't great for Barrier 1, as you know, to 2,300 metres, so he will be able to keep up at the start. But is he good enough to win? I don't think so. He's $17. I think that's about the right odds. In fact, I actually see him, because of the way the algorithms will react to that form, I see him drifting on the night.
So he gets the services of Cam Hart, and I want to grab your thoughts on him very shortly too, but he's probably not an explosive mobile beginner, so I have him mapped at best 3 fence, which isn't a bad place to be in a race of this nature.
Well, not for a 3-year-old either.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he's a big, strong boy, so I think that the distance will suit him, but how important is Cam Hart in this equation?
When I first saw Cameron Hart driving his first Group 1 winner in his home track Riverina 3 years ago, I thought he'll be in the Hall of Fame. He's that good. He really is mini J-Mac for the harness racing fraternity, but you can only do so much. He can't carry him over the line. So I think this horse, right odds, about $25. Top 5 would be a good finish. He looks like a horse who could be coming back for this race next year, Brittany.
We will wait and see how he goes. But just on Cameron Hart, looking to add to his Inter-Dominion and New Zealand Cup successes with a Eureka, so it would be a nice trophy on the mantelpiece. The next runner in focus is horse number 3, Major Delight. She's looking to follow a very similar blueprint to her former stablemate in Cypher.
Major Delight, a multiple Group 1 winner trained by Emma Stewart. Racing in the Team Zav colours, this informed mare has won her last 5 starts.
Into the straight, it's Major Delight from Rakiro Rebel, Soho Historia. Major Delight 2 metres, Rakiro Rebel trying hard with Soho Historia, but Major Delight, she makes it an art form of winning and she wins again.
Well, lots to unpack with this exciting mare. She's really done it all. Her overall body of work is quite exceptional. And Andrew, she will represent Team Zav. It's hard not to get excited when you chat with Danny and Joanna Zavitsanos.
Exactly right. They're probably the most enthusiastic of the slot holders. They have a big crowd coming to support them on Saturday night. They've drawn well. Obviously, Joanna pulled the right rein as far as the barrier draw was concerned. And, of course, last year's winner came from 3 as well. So, yeah, there's lots to line up there that I'm sure they'll be really happy with.
They had a big decision to make, Danny and Joe, also, as they have a very good group of their own horses. But, Michael, they've gone with the mare. I wonder if last year had anything to do with that. And a mare with an impeccable record as well. She's really done it all. Does she get the credit that she deserves?
I don't think she does, but she's tight enough in the market for me. She's around the $6 mark. And 2 things that concern me. She hasn't won in free-for-all grade. Now, in Cypher, her stablemate came here last year and did win this race, but had won the Westburn Grant, beating 3 serious Grand Circuit horses the start before. She didn't need to prove anything to us. Major Delight hasn't done that, and also she's been to Menangle before and been beaten in mare's company, including by the horse who starts next to her on Saturday night, Fair and Square, this time last year. I think, Brittany, she lacks a bit of high speed, and she can get away with that when she's taking on her own age and sex, but she can't get away with it here. I think she might be outpaced. She's $6, as I said. I think her real odds are around $10, and I do expect her to drift in the market.
She is a big, strong mare, isn't she? And I think that the trip will really suit her, the 2,300 metres. It seems the further, the better. And she really loves a rough and tough fight. I actually spoke to Ashley DeLosa. Well, is she fast enough over 100 or 200 metres? She can sustain a high speed for a long time. So I guess it depends on what you refer to. But if she is out in front doing her own thing, can she maintain a pressure that makes it impossible for anything and maybe those fast horses to even get into the contest?
I'm not sure she'll be quick enough to get there. I know they would like to be there because she is that strong rolling type of mare. I love her. I think she's a wonderful horse, and I do think she's peaking at the right time. I think she's improved quite a bit in the last 6 to 8 weeks, and she does get on so well with Ashley, as you mentioned. But she hasn't shown me enough speed to win this race, and I don't find a place she's likely to win from that she's going to end up. I think she will get crossed early.
I think she will too, speaking to Ash. She's probably not a rapid beginner. To be fair, they probably haven't had to do a lot of that in the past because she's been the dominant force. Speaking to her, I said, would you like to lead? And she actually mentioned the fact that she thought she travelled better when she had a bunny to follow, or, you know, she was outside of the leader and she had something to really run down. So maybe, and we haven't seen it before, maybe she is better off a helmet. So that could be a circumstance that plays out on Saturday evening. Ashley DeLosa having her first serious start in a tab Eureka is quite something. Only in her 3rd full season of driving. Major Delight was her 100th career winner only a few weeks ago, and she's taken her on some sort of ride. She's certainly in there, and there's quite a few that are giving her a very strong chance. The other mare to take her place is I Keep Smiling. We've heard only in the last few days that Greg Sugars will be taking the reins on this Luke McCarthy trained mare. She's already a Group 1 winner this year. She won the Golden Girl.
I Keep Smiling, trained by Luke McCarthy, was snapped up by Wayne and Julie Loader's Western Jewel slot. The 4-year-old mare won the Group 1 Breeders' Challenge as a 3-year-old and recently secured her 2nd Group 1 in the Golden Girl.
I Keep Smiling off their backs and she's launching. I Keep Smiling races to the lead. Manhattan Deeper. I Keep Smiling takes the lead. I Keep Smiling.
She knows what it takes to win at the top level. She's done it on quite a few occasions, Andrew. She's representing the Western Jewel slot for Wayne and Julie Loader. Speaking of roller coasters, they've been on one this year. They had Extreme C, but they didn't muck around in finding a likely replacement. It could be quite a shrewd one.
Exactly right, and I was in Queensland for the Golden Girl, and I was watching very closely when Luke returned to the parade ring and saw Wayne making his way down there to get pretty close, and I thought to myself, hang on, there's something going on here. And what I also liked about it was that Wayne's such a parochial New South Welshman, and he really enjoys the breeding side of the business, so made sense for him to go that way. And then also Jackie Gibson's involvement, obviously as the owner of the horse as well, is a really nice touch, and I think it brings everything together really well. Wayne's a very laconic character, but I know he seems to be really enthusiastic this year about her chances.
I Keep Smiling, Michael, she's already a multiple Group 1 winner. What do you read into Luke McCarthy's decision making? Do you read anything into it?
I think it's not much in it. It wasn't an instantaneous decision that was made straight after the barrier draw on Monday. I think he thinks she can win, but he has a better chance with Don Hugo, who's more exposed and free for all grade, and in these types of races he's been in the last 2 Rising Suns. I do think she can win sitting just off the speed. If she's going to win, I think she's going to win like in Cypher did last year. Keep your nose clean early, 2 or 3 back on the outside, let others spend their energy as they did here. This was a free-for-all grade race. So even though she hasn't raced in free-for-alls, this was that level, I believe. And of the two mares, I think they got the prices wrong, because she sat parked outside Major Delight last year and beat her on this track in 150 for a mile. She's good enough to win. I think she's about the right price, because I think Major Delight was too short. I think they're both about $10. She might be the better each way bet of the two. I still think the disadvantage for them, Brittany, is they haven't rough and tumble with the boys yet, and it's a really difficult thing to do.
And she hasn't ever raced over the Menangle 2300 metres either. She's raced over further distance when she took on the Riverina Championship, where she was just defeated by Not to Be Denied on that occasion, again defeating Major Delight. She won't get involved early simply because she doesn't have the gate speed to, but I think that she can put herself into play during the race should the right circumstances play out.
For example, stablemate Don Hugo comes around the field. Greg Sugars has the options to pull in front of that, knowing if Don Hugo ends up parked, he won't be handing up that spot. So Greg's a great big race driver, a really good choice. I absolutely think she can win. I think she's a very good each way bet. I just wouldn't be surprised if one of the boys was too fast or too strong.
It's interesting, Luke McCarthy, both of his runners in this year's Eureka are coming into this fresh. She hasn't raced for 5 weeks. She's had a couple of trials in preparation, though, and that was a purposeful decision as well. So we'll be intriguing to see how that affects them, you would hope positively, come Saturday night. Our next runner is Sure Thing Captain, one of the final runners to be locked in. He went around on Saturday night in the RaceNet Discovery and was able to win his way into this Tab Eureka. Shannon Price trains.
Sure Thing Captain, trained by Shannon Price, secured a spot on the Tab Eureka with an impressive performance in the Discovery. This proven Menangle performer will represent Tab.
Captain Hammerhead is trying to wind up on the outside. The roughie, I break the lines, getting into the clear and dangerous off the track, but Sure Thing Captain steals a march, goes for home. Doug's Platter's trying to run a big race and flashing home dangerous with Whisper and Secret, but it's Sure Thing Captain.
He will wear the green on Saturday evening. Sure Thing Captain representing Tab. Andrew, I've spoken about the process in the last few weeks, but for those who weren't aware how he came to be in the race, do tell.
Well, obviously there was a little bit of a false start and some concerns around Frankie Ferocious a few weeks ago. Obviously had a throat surgery subsequent to that, which left Tab empty in terms of a horse to select. Brett Boyd, who headed up the committee, came to Harness Racing Australia and asked whether or not we could utilise the RaceNet Discovery Stakes, as we renamed it, as a way in selecting the horse. And we had the Singo the year prior. The John Singleton combination had already made their decision as to who to select, so we didn't have that opportunity. No one did. So suddenly a $30,000 race to select what was going to be the emergencies for the race became the Tab selection race. And it was a fantastic to see so many horses, to Mick's point earlier. I think 4 states represented, all making their way for the Last Chance Saloon. And obviously the winner got the nod from Tab's perspective. During the week of the barrier draw, there was a bit of gnashing of teeth and hopefulness about Tab's selection this time around, given having been particularly successful in any slot races or opportunities that have come their way so far. So hopefully this year's the year for you and your team. Shannon Price was an excellent ambassador last year, and I was really rapt for her to have another opportunity.
And she has had that experience now, Michael. Trainer and driver both in the same boat. They ran 5th last year with Speak the Truth. What do you think of Sure Thing Captain? He's got a mighty impressive record at Menangle.
I think a lot of horses, in every big race, whether it's a Cox Plate for the Gallops or a Miracle Mile, there's a horse who in the last 10 days coming into the race, everything seems to go right. This is him. He had to win this race last week. Don't get too carried away by this punt as what you're seeing, because you've got a very easy lead and he was always going to win after that. But he did go down the back, from the 800 to the 400 in 26.3. That's really quick. And he may get an easy lead this week, Britt. So he does have the chance to do the same thing, and that could take a lot of horses back in the field out of play. As you said, he likes Menangle. He has an informed driver. He has gate speed. He's best drawn of the boys. He ticks an awful lot of boxes, and he's been a consistently good horse throughout his entire career. When he gets beaten, he tends to have a reason he gets beaten, Britt. It's very easy to make a case he's the horse to beat because we like horses who map to be in front. I don't think he'll stroll to the front, but if he does, I don't see a lot of pressure. So this is the horse who's had the perfect last 10 days, Brittany. He has to be in everybody's top 3. That early pressure or the potential for maybe imaginary mid-race pressure, Brittany, that could decide his chances and in fact the chances of all those behind him.
It's such an intriguing race, and not only from there being so many winning hopes, but also probably not a lot of genuine front-running horses amongst some genuine horses that like to be parked. I think there's a lot of horses that would like to get to the fence first, but would be more than happy to hand up. So could he undertake a similar sort of path to the lead? Last week he didn't really get involved, knowing that he could continue to work forward, not run a crazy lead time, settle, which he's had a little bit of a problem doing in the past, and then work forward. There's not a whole lot of horses in this race, particularly inside him, that would want to have him sitting outside of them.
And if he does lead, there's not a lot of horses in the race who come attack. There's no horse who's going to think, well, he'll hand up, because he won't. So I don't see any pressure. And over 2,300 at Menangle, often they go very slow down the straight the first time, and if there's no pressure until round the back straight, it's too late. And that could be too late for Never Ending, or too late for horses who are further back in the field. We do have a couple of horses who can make a move. Whether they make that move with any venom, Britt, could decide the outcome of the entire race. He is absolutely, undoubtedly, in the box seat.
And for his chances as well, it's not imperative that he finds the lead. They've actually said they think he's a very good horse off a helmet as well. So there's multiple ways Sure Thing Captain can win this race, and he drew the best that he possibly could as a 4-year-old entire in all gelding. He will wear saddlecloth number 5, but he will start from gate number 4. The last horse in was Whisperer Secret, getting the call up earlier this week to, as an emergency, take the Tas Racing slot. He was an eye-catcher last week, though, in that same race to Discovery.
Whisperer Secret gained a coveted spot for Tas Racing in the tab Eureka after Fighter Command was scratched. Trained by Chantal Turpin, Whisperer Secret won the Group 1 Rising Sun during the Constellations Carnival.
Don Hugo into the home straight, claimed by Whisperer Secret. A rotor went to the inside. Don Hugo, Whisperer Secret. Don Hugo, Whisperer Secret. Whisperer Secret takes the Rising Sun. Whisperer Secret beat Don Hugo.
Well, racing is all about opportunities, and Whisperer Secret has managed to get him in the last possible opportunity. Andrew, that's with the Tas Racing slot. Obviously, they would have loved one of their own to be in that position. There was no Tasmanians in the emergencies, and they went with Whisperer Secret.
They did, and I suppose it was part of the strength of drawing the emergencies in the field at the barrier draw as well. They had the opportunity to select any of the 4 emergencies as their replacement. Obviously, bad luck with Fighter Command, and our thoughts are with the horse and also the connections at this time. It's unfortunate what has happened, but it's fallen in the lap now of obviously Chantal Turpin, which maintains that narrative of half the field being trained by female trainers, which is a great fillip for the sport as well. So, yeah, good luck to them.
Well, he's been such an improver this season, Michael. He's always been a nice horse. He ran a great race in a derby last year, chasing home the Lost Storm, but he's taken that next step that he needed to. That Rising Sun victory was no fluke. He was wide for a long way. He sat out 3 wide. He beat Don Hugo, which was subsequently picked up. He beat Captain's Knock. And then he still wasn't able to get a slot. So that just shows how interesting this race has been. But this was a genuine performance.
He's the horse who's changed the race this week, because there's now another definite winning chance, and he's in my top 3 as well. This win, what you didn't see there was he took off 1,000 metres from home at Albion Park, and that was a comparable, not as strong, but comparable type of race. And he was 3 wide for the entire last lap, more or less, until he got down over the last bend. He absolutely can win this. He did disappoint when he led in the 4-year-old championship, but I think the best version of him's not leading. I think if they ease out of the gate, then the question comes, and this is the big question for them. When somebody moves, somebody has to move. Do they go first? Do they want to move if a Don Hugo moves or a Major Delight moves and try and get around in front of it? Or do you not hand up? Do you say, we're tough enough, we've won one of these, a 3 and 4 year old race, Britt, we're happy to go sit outside the leader and run up the straight as quick as we can. He has multiple ways he can win the race. I think he's coming in exactly the right time. I think he's the one horse who may shorten. He's around $7 with tab.com.au, but I can see him closing in. He's the most obvious shortener in the race because I think the bookies are still reacting to what's been a very hectic last couple of days.
He ran the fastest last half last week, 53 flat coming from last. He was exceptionally good, but it's a vastly improved barrier draw this week. And it's interesting you mention him early, and I agree, I don't think the best version of him is leading, but I think there has to be some enticement that they look early. There may be wait for a horse like Sure Thing Captain. He is very quick, and Pete McMullen, he's an aggressive driver.
As you know, though, to light them up over 2,300 down the back straight at Menangle, you need to light them up to get across to the marker pegs. Whether he wants to come back to him under that situation, I think they go back to plan A, which was the Rising Sun plan. It worked in a similar field. And if he comes 3 wide, the one thing he does not want is Never Ending sitting on his back. He could be a horse who makes the race for something else. I think they need to move earlier. I think they need to get to the park. That gives them a lot more options than sitting and waiting. It's
a great story with this horse. There were some really big offers come through from North America at the end of his 3-year-old campaign. They said, no, we've got the horse we wanted, and now they're in the world's richest harness race, which is going to be a very special experience for all involved. That's half of the field. We're going to take a quick break, and on the other side, we're going to move out the barrier draws, and of course, we'll end up with Never Ending, who will round out the field for this year's Tab Eureka. Welcome back to our preview of Saturday night's $2.1 million Tab Eureka at Menangle. We're halfway through the field and we'll pick back up again with horse number 7, Free Thinker, who found his way into this race by winning the Hayden a few months ago. Now, Grant Dixon will be in a very different position this time around to what he was 12 months ago.
Free Thinker, trained by Grant Dixon, will represent Racing Queensland in the Tab Eureka. The son of Hurricane King Cole secured his spot in the Tab Eureka with an impressive performance in the Hayden.
For real life in the centre, races to a narrow lead. Free Thinker, he's looming big danger. Ragazzo Tilly coming on strongly. Free Thinker races to the lead. Ragazzo Tilly trying to go with him. Free Thinker, Ragazzo Tilly. Free Thinker, Ragazzo Tilly. Free Thinker. Free Thinker's off to the Eureka.
So he's looking to do the Hayden Eureka double is Free Thinker, Andrew, and therefore he's representing Racing Queensland.
And by a stroke of luck, Danny Zavastanos has a second runner and another shot at the world's richest harness race. Obviously, connections there with Kevin Seymour, and Kevin bred the horse, so Kevin has an interest. So yeah, there's a real circle happening around this horse as well, and lots of different layers to its place in the field.
He was a little disappointing last start, Michael, in the Triad final, below his best, but his carnival form as a whole was very strong.
I don't think it was a strong Hayden. In fact, it was a weak Hayden. And he's in the race with a great trainer driver. So I look at it this way. I don't give him any real winning chance, and I don't want to be on him. But Grant Dixon has form. He knows how to do these things. So there's some people watching this who like to make a book for themselves. They like to have 2 or 3 or 4 horses going for them, or they'll bet early into the futures and they're going to cover on a couple. He's $81, Brittany. If you are making a book for yourself and you're having a spend, what's $2 to find out? You would hate to not have him at such long odds and have Grant Dixon blouse you out over the last 100 metres. But I don't think his form is strong enough for me to give him a serious winning chance. That's why he's $81.
It's interesting because he's better known as a really tough on-speed horse, but I keep going back to his run in the 4-year-old championship where he hit the line really strongly. He actually ran past Whisper a Secret. Whisper a Secret led. He sat 4th fence. So maybe there's a few more strings to his bow than first thought. Horse number 9 is High Above, another from the Emma Stewart stable. He will be lining up at just start 10 on Saturday night.
High Above, trained by Emma Stewart. This lightly raced son of Captain Treacherous races for the Arronbane Racing and Summit Bloodstock slot. They selected him after his performance in the Vic Bred Heats.
About 8 metres to Classic Mesh and Exotic Bush Ranger. High above the outside, he's a Punk Rocker starting to steam home. High above, put its nose in front. He's a Punk Rocker's going to dive late. He's a Punk Rocker over the top. Will he get there? No, I think High above just.
Well, if hype is anything to go by, High Above is going to run a very bold race on Saturday night. Andrew, they're looking to do it again, Summit Bloodstock and Aaron Bain Racing.
Very late selection in the piece, but we saw that last year. They are the reigning champions in terms of slot holders. So I know Aaron Bain Racing and obviously Jamie Dernberger-Smith through Summit Bloodstock took a lot of information from Emma and Clayton with regard to which horse they should take before landing on this, and it wasn't until late on Saturday, second last horse selected. So yeah, they're up and about as well.
Michael, I remember talking to Clayton Tonkin this time last year. I think it was actually at the Breakfast with the Stars, and he was really telling me how good High Above is. Now, 12 months later, he's in the world's richest harness race, but it's a big undertaking. He's giving away a lot of experience.
In every possible way, Brittany. He's only had 9 career starts. Menangle coming wide this Saturday with a huge crowd and all the noise at that speed he's never travelled at before. That's a lot of negatives. I'm not saying he can't win. Maybe he is a genuine superstar of harness racing. He has the stride and the look of one of those horses. But he's going to need to do 2 things on Saturday night. He's going to need to be the best horse in the race because he's drawn wide. And Brittany, he's going to need to learn on the run. This is not a race I want to be learning. I don't like backing horses who have never been to Menangle before and done the rough and tumble of racing there. In that regard, I think the draw helps because Kieran Manning, one of the absolute gems of harness racing, can keep her nose clean early. I just can't see on this last start performance how he can win. The motor is there. I wouldn't be surprised if he won a Grand Circuit race in the future. I just don't think it'll be the same.
This was his effort a couple of starts ago, and this took my eye. He came from, beg your pardon, this is his last start effort, sorry. But his run 2 starts ago really took my eye because he came from wide and well back at the short course, and you don't see that a lot at Melton. So he's clearly got a few strings to his bow. Very fast horse.
I agree with you. He's big and he's strong and he looks like an open class horse should look. He just might look more like it in 20 starts' time.
Yeah, you can't replace, I guess, experience and confidence. They're 2 things, and he's on differing parts of the scale at this point in time, but I'm really looking forward to seeing.
I'm also worried about him, but just quickly for our viewers, of course, there is a retention barn. So the horses at Thursday today, at lunchtime, go into the retention barn, and they are stuck in there together. It's not unhealthy. The horses don't mind it. But for a horse like him, it might get his wheels spinning a bit quicker than maybe they would like. So he's a horse, when I hear the words retention barn, I don't think he's probably going to enjoy that experience or be as comfortable in those environs as some of the other horses in the race.
One person who will be comfortable, though, it's Karen Manning. She's been in all of the very biggest races. She knows this horse very well. In fact, they are 4 from 4 together. Don Hugo is our next runner in preview. He was able to run second in that Rising Sun throughout the Queensland Carnival. Then he took on the older horses and he won the Blacks of Fate Constellation.
Don Hugo, trained by Luke McCarthy and representing the Singo slot, Don Hugo made his intentions clear during the Constellations Carnival with some strong performances at Albion Park.
Classy Washington gripping onto third, but he's under a drive, deeper outer Rhoda. Don Hugo gets to the extreme outside. Don Lu in front, Kanina Problema. Look at Don Hugo. Don is good. Don Hugo beats Kanina Problema. Targaryen.
He's well and truly in the market is Don Hugo, and Andrew Kelly. He will be there for the Singo slot. They went in a direction last year of a race, but clearly his performances there in Queensland, they didn't want to let him go this time around.
That's right. John Singleton had his form analysts going down every rabbit hole. I know for a fact how many people they looked at, how much data they wanted, and they've come up with Don Hugo, obviously on the strength of his Queensland Carnival.
He was excellent throughout the Queensland Carnival, Michael. We've spoken already about maybe underrated horses. I think he's one, or maybe he's just coming of age at the right time.
I think so, and we also spoke about the importance of having raced in rough and tumble races. Races like this, races where there's pressure, and even racing in free-for-all grade. He's done a lot of that. He's had that tough, hardened campaign. He won't shirk a 151 or 152 mile rate for the 2300 metres, and he does have leg speed, as we can see there. So absolutely he can win. Luke McCarthy, his trainer, chose him. So Luke, who is of course the defending driving champion for the race, I can't think of a box, Brittany, he doesn't tick, apart from the fact that I don't see him being on the marker peaks. I don't see how he gets there, which means he's going to need to be clearly superior to win. Very much though, Don Hugo, the horse who ticks the most boxes in the race. Where he ends up in the running could be fascinating. I think Luke would love to drive him like that. I don't think that's going to be an option if they're going slow up front.
In that replay that we've just seen, he set a new track record at Albion Park, beating the prior that was set by Leap to Fame when he won an Inter-Dominion Grand Final, and then Leap to Fame came out later that evening and bettered the mark. But you mentioned an important point there in that Luke would love to drive him like that, but it must be going through his mind, if I'm not the enforcer, then who is? Well,
and also, if he sits back there and drives him like that and never endings on his back, are you making the race for a horse who may well be faster, Brittany? I think he's very likely to be outside the leader at the 800 metre mark, and from there they can control the tempo, choose when the button is pushed, and that not only affects the leader, but of course it affects those further back in the field, never ending, who we'll get to very shortly.
I think you mentioned it earlier on, a very important part of Don Hugo's game plan is that he clearly loves the distance, so that is a big tick for him come Saturday evening. Our next runner is Captain's Knock. He was locked in nice and early. He's already a multiple Group 1 winner at Menangle.
Captain's Knock. Trained by Brad Hewitt and representing the Cordina racing slot, this exciting 4-year-old went back-to-back in the New South Wales Breeders' Challenge features.
Captain's Knock over Warratalu, Model Barno. They were followed behind those runners then by Bainbridge, but it's Captain's Knock. He's full of running. Captain's Knock, well clear, 100 to go. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. This is a big, big win for Captain's Knock, and Captain's Knock wins the Group 1.
Well, Brad Hewitt will be hoping he's smiling like that again coming up on this Saturday night, Andrew. The Cordina racing team, I know you've mentioned when speaking about the Eureka, it's something we should talk about all year round. And I have a funny feeling Daniel Cordina in particular has been thinking of this night since last year.
No doubt about it. He was a little bit flat when I spoke to him after the last year's edition. He obviously had Catch a Wave in the race. He had a little twinkle in his eye though when he told me I've already got one for next year, and so he was pretty quick off the mark. I think he was second to make the announcement at the end of the day, but yeah, he and his brother obviously got really high hopes for this particular horse. They've stuck with him and he's still very bullish about his chances, so yeah, good luck to them.
Yeah, I think he's flying under the radar, Michael. He's proven at this top level on quite a few occasions, and he's had no luck with barrier draws. Not that that's changed on Saturday night, but he does have a lot of gate speed. Spoke to Brad Hewitt this morning. He was playing the cautious game, but when that green light goes on, lots can change.
Especially for 21 for $2.1 million. So I love the horse, but his only 3 victories this year have been in significantly weaker fields. In fact, against horses who wouldn't even make this field. He has raced a lot in good fields and he's been good in them, sometimes running from 2nd to 3rd down to 6th. I think he's getting to the end of a long campaign. I think he needs about 20 kilos more muscle and 6 months more time to be what he is going to be, which is going to be a very good Miracle Mile horse. That's what I think he is. But I agree with you. He's flown under the radar. If he gets the right helmet to follow, yes, he has a chance in the race. I don't like him to win because he hasn't won in anything like this grade. But I do think the $7 a place for tab.com.au is the best place money in the race.
It's interesting you mentioned a Miracle Mile horse because I think he's a great short course horse. He probably hasn't proven himself over distance just yet, whether that's circumstantial or he's just not as sharp. I spoke to Brad Hewitt, as mentioned, and he mentioned that he was a little bit below his best last time out. So if you're looking at that last start performance where he underperformed, they've been able to get on top of things. So they're expecting a better version of Captain's Knock come Saturday night. The final runner for us to look to is the favourite, Never Ending. We'll start from the outside of the gate, representing WA.
Never Ending. Trained by Justin Prentice, this multiple Group 1 winner will race in the Soho Standardbred slot and is the first Western Australian pacer to run in a Tab Eureka.
Never Ending in front. Lusaka is trying to cut it down, and right down the outside is Skylord. Never Ending's in front though, holding Skylord and Lusaka, and Never Ending all the way has won again brilliantly.
Gosh, he's added so much to this year's Tab Eureka. Andrew, first horse in. Can he be the first horse home?
Well, I think he can. But Soho Standardbreds and Rob Watson haven't had a great time of it with the 2 barrier draws of this race so far, drawing 14 both times. But my last conversations with Rob was that he wasn't particularly perturbed, and he thought with the great team that the horse obviously has around it, that he's every chance.
He's a very exciting horse, Michael, and we learnt so much 2 weeks ago where he was unreal at his first Menangle start. Are we all believers now?
I think we're believers. I think we'd be believing a lot more if he had drawn barrier 5 or 6. He's the horse coming widest here. This is Major Moth in front, who's one of the favourites for the Len Smith Mile. So this is genuine free-for-all grade. And he is obviously, you can see down the outside to your eye, exceptionally good. The problem is, if the same race shape happens to happen here, and a sure thing captain is this week's Major Moth, can he give away the similar type of start? No doubt he's the fastest horse in the race. There's no doubt about that. And he does have, even though they're not that strong, free-for-all and Bunbury type cup form in WA. So he's used to doing this a little bit, and of course Justin Prentice has done the right thing bringing him to Menangle nice and early. So lots of ticks. But I think his chances might rely on the horses around him. I think if he gets on the back of a Don Hugo and he's stuck 3 wide, he's 3 wide with Cuthbert the 600, we'll be looking at each other and going, we know what's going to happen here. If he doesn't do that and he has to come by himself, or he gets on the back of a horse who doesn't take him to the top of the lane, because it's really hard to pull out at the 400 or the 500, the cages at Menangle, and keep up that sprint for a horse who's a lot faster, I think, Brittany, than he is tough. He's my top pick in the race because he's the best horse, and I like to pick the best horse to win races. And I think you'll know at the 600 what sort of chance you've got. But I do think Gary Hall Jr. only has one way he can drive him, Brit. It's a bloody hard way to win a Eureka.
It's interesting you mention that, because a lot of people have mentioned his versatility, and there's no doubting that he's led and won a lot of his races. He's done some work, but this is a very different ball game. What I loved about him, though, was how tractable he was at his first Menangle start. For one, he seemed to handle the track very well. He settled nicely, and he just savaged the line. I think they're really positive signs.
What about the retention barn? He's a horse who's come to a new environment. He seems to have handled it beautifully. Justin's done exactly what he should have done, but they don't have these in WA. This is a whole new ball game for him.
It absolutely is, and I think Justin's been pretty forthcoming in that it took him quite a while to settle in after making his way across from Western Australia. So it's going to be a whole nother ball game going in to this retention facility, and that's why it'll be pretty important to tune in tomorrow morning when we're out at Menangle to see how he is about 24 hours into his new adventure. They are the runners in this year's Tab Eureka. We're going to take another breather, and on the other side, we're going to try and find you the winner. Now that we've found out all about the 10 runners in this year's Tab Eureka, it's time to find you the winner. Michael Gearan, we've got all of that information now. Just tell us straight who's going to win this year's $2.1 million feature.
I'm pretty set on my top 4, but I put them into a blender and they could have come out any way of 4 ways, to be honest, Brittany. I'm going Never Ending because I think he's the best horse in the race. I think he's the fastest horse in the race, and there are helmets to follow which I think can get him home. So I want to be on him. He does, of course, also have a champion driver. I do want to be on the leader in almost every harness race, though, so sure thing captain, an obvious second selection. I think Whisper a Secret, Brittany's the best bet in the race, if that $7 holds up, because he's a very each-way play, and he's won one of these. He's won a race which was similar to this. The Rising Sun is the closest thing we have to a Eureka, and Don Hugo ticks all the boxes. Maybe he doesn't have the raw class to beat those horses, but he does have Luke McCarthy. So that's the order I came up with, and you and I, who often agree on things, seeing the winner different this week.
I do. I just keep coming back to I Keep Smiling. I just feel as though it's incredibly hard to win a 2,300 metre race at Menangle being involved early on. And one thing I know for sure is that she won't be involved early on, but she's still going to lob in a nice enough position where I think that she can be put into the race at the right time. She just seems to be on the up. I love her Menangle record as well. So a lot of ticks, and the price, of course, is probably swaying me in her direction as well. I think Sure Thing Captain, as you mentioned, will run a very bold race, and he's another that can win a few different ways, but he does have that barrier draw advantage over his rivals. Never Ending, you just keep coming back to what his body of work looks like, which is incredibly good, but I'm just very concerned about the barrier draw. I don't think that he can do mid-race work and still win this race, because there's never a right time to move if you're that far from them as well. But if he does get the right helmet, as you keep telling me, he's going to be a major player. And for first fours, I agree. Whisper a Secret, I think, will run a really good race. And in my mind, I have him getting across early to find a really good position, and from there he can take a trail and be very dangerous. So I keep smiling. I'm going with the mares again.
What about playing just straight out betting? You've got an $11 chance. Do you see her as each way your best bet in the race?
Absolutely, yeah. Each way, I think that you can't really go wrong with her at this point in time, because I think she's a genuine winning hope. And therefore, I think if you've got a top 3 option as well, that's not bad.
Yeah, I like Whisper a Secret as the best bet. If you're just having one bet in the race, Whisper a Secret. And if you're looking for something a bit out of left field, Captain's Knock at the $7 a place, Brit. I'm not sure he can win the race, but I wouldn't be stunned to see him top 3. He has a big body of work at Menangle.
So many opinions, so much to still get through between now and Saturday night. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us. Good luck to you and your team, and congratulations on this great race being here once again.
Yeah, terrific to join you this afternoon, and look forward to seeing everyone out at the track on Saturday night.
What about the coverage, Britt? What are we going to be doing on Sky? Because I know there's a whole bunch of things going on.
We'll be doing quite a bit actually on Saturday night, Michael. We will have Sky Racing active coverage for the entirety of the card, and Sky Thoroughbred Central also from 6 o'clock onwards, so about race number 3. So if you can't make it, which I would implore you to do if you can, to Menangle on Saturday evening for what's going to be an amazing night of harness racing, stay tuned to the channels of Sky. We will see you then.
The mighty man's down after Lisa Fame. Inside the goes up, puts the nose in front, comes away, a famous victory. Inside the beats Lisa Fame. It's just outside the overall world record.